Well, good evening, Broncos country, Nuggets nation, and everybody in between. Welcome in. I am your host, Gage Madrid, coming at you to do sort of a group therapy session. The Denver Nuggets eliminated from the NBA playoffs in Game 7 of the Western Conference semifinals against the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Nuggets were able to take it to 7 games, but at the end of the day, they were not enough to overcome both beating themselves as well as the Minnesota Timberwolves, who are a very, very strong team in the NBA. Hats off to Minnesota. I'm really, really excited to see what the future for their basketball team is. But enough about basketball, guys. We are here to talk some Denver Broncos. Get away from all the Nuggets talk. I know some of you guys out there just might want to take your minds off of it, whatever. So we're going to be talking some Denver Broncos OTAs, which are set to get underway on Tuesday. This is going to be the first opportunity for Denver Broncos rookies and veterans to get on the field together at full practice speed. They've been doing walkthroughs for the past couple of weeks, but this is going to be the first real football, or the closest thing to real football, that we're going to see from the Denver Broncos this offseason workout period, and I'm really, really excited for that. We got USMC Sniper in the house. We've got Hillbilly John in the house saying Joker needs more playmakers on his team that can play defense also. The Denver Broncos were just the Denver Nuggets, I should say, were just very, very aggressive shooting 3 points tonight, and that was to their detriment. They just were not a cohesive basketball team. They relied too much on Nikola Jokic. They relied too much on Jamal Murray. Aaron Gordon stepped up in moments when he had to, but at the end of the day, it just wasn't enough to overcome this really, really tough Minnesota Timberwolves team. Again, I'm not a basketball analyst. I follow basketball, but I don't analyze it, and I don't follow it as much as I do the sport of football. But I am a Nuggets fan, and I was collectively heartbroken along with the city of Denver with what transpired on the basketball court. And I do strongly agree that this Nuggets team is going to have to retool a little bit, get some guys who are more consistent shooters around Nikola Jokic. That's just from an outsider, casual fan's perspective of what they need to do to improve the Denver Nuggets. But talking about the Denver Broncos, I wanted to bring in an article here from Mike Kliss of 9 News, just talking about the top 9 storylines that we are going to be following for the Denver Broncos as we head into OTAs. We've got Alex in the house. We needed a miracle at the end of every Laker game. It was true. They took that series down a little bit closer than it should have. They were not playing their best basketball in that series. The Lakers were just the worst team at the end of the day, and the Denver Nuggets were able to outlast them. They weren't able to outlast a team like the Minnesota Timberwolves. My mom's over here. She's a Lakers fan, but I'm just being brutally honest here. We got Shy in the house. I'm just waiting for Broncos football. We choked a 20-plus point lead, and that's inexcusable. Do you think Russ will play better with Mike Tomlin? I don't know, man. I think that Russell Wilson has flaws in his game that are just going to follow him pretty much wherever he goes. Greetings, Broncos Syndicate community. Welcome in, Maverick. Good to see you. Good to see you. So let me go ahead and bring in this article here from Mike Kliss. I'm going to move this over here. Share screen. Beautiful. All right. So these are the top storylines that the Denver Broncos have that are going into OTAs, which again begin on Tuesday. The top storyline, of course, is Bo Nix or Jarrett Stidham or Zach Wilson. Who is going to be QB1? Who is going to take those first snaps for the Denver Broncos in OTAs? First-round rookie Bo Nix has now practiced a week with the veterans, even if it was offense on offense and at a walkthrough pace. Now he gets to practice against a live defense, full speed, if without pads or taking hits from the pass rush. Based on the one rookie minicamp practice open for viewing last Saturday, Nix seems to be a steady enough operator to believe he will acclimate to the increased NFL speed quicker than most. Zach Wilson begins serious work on his quarterback rehab following 3 disappointing seasons with the New York Jets. Jarrett Stidham is in a rare position where he may be the one at the moment, but is trailing the race for the season opening starter. Stidham's 2024 payout, $6 million with only $1 million guaranteed, is such that he will have to beat out Wilson by a good margin to stick as the top option to Knicks. So what this means here is that Jarrett Stidham is most likely going to take the opening reps for the Denver Broncos in the first OTA practices, but that's probably not going to last for long. This probably is only going to last for, I'm going to guess, the beginning of training camp is when we will see the switch, and Bo Nix will be taking at least some of the first team reps, if not all of them. Zach Wilson will get a fair shot, but right now I think Peyton wants Zach Wilson to sort of take a step back and sit, do football rehabilitation, and just be able to focus on his fundamentals, his execution within the structure of the play, something he really struggled with during his tenure with the New York Jets. So I don't think Zach Wilson is going to be Sean Payton's first option for the quarterback position this fall when we enter training camp as well as the preseason. Bo Nix will get his chance. He absolutely will. And I think to this point, he's displayed his ability to handle some of the pre-snap stuff at the line of scrimmage. He's displayed his ability to handle the protections, handle the cadence, handle getting the play call out in the huddle, all the little stuff that we desperately need him to be able to do early if he's going to take the QB1 job. Hilby also says, I'd like to see what Zach can do since he was a top quarterback in the draft. He was, but I think that we need to look at where Zach Wilson is right now as a player, and he's somebody who really struggled with just some of the basics of the NFL. Excuse me. Calling a play in the huddle, pre-snap cadence, identifying the Mike linebacker, knowing what coverage the defense is in based on pre and post-snap tells. That's something Zach Wilson has really struggled with, and I think he's going to have to grasp some more of those basics until he's able to become a consistent starter in the NFL. Shai says, who will be the starting quarterback for the Denver Broncos? If I had to put money on it right now, I would say that Bo Nix will be the week one starter for the Denver Broncos. There's no point in sitting him if there's nothing that he's going to benefit from by sitting. Zach Wilson is somebody who should have sat last year because he wasn't able to grasp the basics of an NFL offense. Bo Nix is showcased in one rookie minicamp practice that he's ahead of the curve on that side of things than Zach Wilson is, and that's very encouraging. I don't think that Bo Nix needs to sit because he's already got the basics down. The best learning that can happen from Bo Nix as we go through training camp, as we go through minicamp, OTAs, all that stuff, is to be able to learn on the fly and learn from experience by getting live reps. He can't do that if he's sitting on the bench. So at the end of the day, I really do feel like it's the most beneficial thing for the Denver Broncos to let Bo Nix play early. He's 24 years old. He's played over 60 games in college. He's not like a Jordan Love who was 21 years old and he sat behind a Hall of Fame quarterback, or even a Patrick Mahomes who sat behind Alex Smith playing some of his best football of his career in 2017. I just don't see the benefit of not playing Bo Nix right out the gate. If he showcases throughout the offseason that he's not ready to handle that load, then you play Jarrett Stidham or you play Zach Wilson, whichever one wins the job. But if Bo Nix displays that he's ready, you start him. It's that simple. So the second main storyline that we're going to be following during Denver Broncos OTAs is, has Javonte Williams regained form? Williams really struggled last year. He averaged just 3.6 yards per carry in his first season coming back from a multi-ligament knee injury. You can understand in the first season coming off of an injury like that why there would be some struggles, but he didn't get stronger and stronger as the season went on like we wanted to see. In fact, he got weaker and weaker as the season went on. In the final 4 games, he averaged just 2.64 yards per carry for the Denver Broncos on 47 rushing attempts, 124 yards. That is not good. That is not good at all. Javonte Williams is going to have to showcase that burst and that explosiveness is back, and he's not basically running with cinder blocks attached to the bottom of his cleats. That's what it looked like in the final games for the Denver Broncos last year, and I'm really, really scared that he's not going to be able to get that burst back. I really, really am scared about that. Maverick says that Javonte lost his speed burst by week 6 or so, and it just got worse and worse as the season went on. The Broncos showed that they do believe in Javonte Williams. They've told him that. They've made it clear to him that they believe in him. But they've also brought in some insurance options in the guise of Audric Estime and Blake Watson in the event that Javonte is unable to return to form. Samaje Perine is somebody who might be on the roster bubble if Javonte does return to form because of the presence of one Blake Watson. What separates Perine and Watson is their size. Watson is a much smaller player. He's only 5'9", and he's 50 pounds lighter than Perine is. Perine is a much bigger body that can handle third down pass protection. That might be the reason why Samaje Perine is able to hold on to his job instead of a guy like Blake Watson. But what separates Watson is his ability to split him out wide as a true slot receiver. He can be a true dynamic receiving threat out of the backfield. That's not necessarily something that Perine can provide. So it's all about what roles the Denver Broncos want to sacrifice in order to fill another role. In the running back room right now, Javonte Williams still figures to be RB1, but that could flip on a dime. Audric Estime could easily gain that role from Javonte Williams. I could even see a Blake Watson or a Jaleel McLaughlin gain that role. But according to Mike Kliss, Jaleel McLaughlin will bring the occasional packages of speed plays, so more of the same niche role that he was filling last season. So we're not really going to expect much of an elevated role for one Jaleel McLaughlin in 2024, at least based on what Mike Kliss is saying here. Could he earn that in training camp and as the season goes on? Absolutely he can, and I really hope he does. But right now, it's still looking like the niche role for Jaleel McLaughlin, just kind of the swing routes. Occasionally, you'll split him out. Just you really flare him out into open space and try to get some blockers in front of him and see if he can make a couple of guys miss and use that straight line vertical speed to take one to the house. That is the goal for one Jaleel McLaughlin, and that could sort of pigeonhole him a little bit into maybe being the odd man out, unfortunately. As much as I love Jaleel McLaughlin, I'm president of the Jaleel McLaughlin fan club, but if somebody like Blake Watson outsnaps him, then I could see Jaleel McLaughlin maybe on the outside looking in. The next thing we're monitoring is how much is Courtland Sutton missing with his unofficial holdout. And for me, he's missing a lot. He's missing that development of a personal relationship with Bo Nix. And that is even bigger than chemistry on the field for me. That will come over time, but you're missing this time to just learn who you guys are as people. How are you guys going to mesh working together as quarterback and number one receiver? I would much rather Courtland Sutton approach his financial disagreements with the Denver Broncos in a different way. I understand his frustrations only having $2 million of guaranteed money left on his deal, and none of that is in 2025. All of it is in this season. So if Courtland Sutton were to get injured and that injury were to stretch into 2025, he would have no guaranteed money protecting himself. That is a problem that does need to be remedied. But by the same token, the Denver Broncos are hesitant to give Courtland Sutton more guaranteed money because he hasn't really lived up to his contract that they gave him last time. I think a realistic scenario for Courtland Sutton's return to the Denver Broncos is for the Broncos to give him some more guaranteed money for this season, maybe give him another $3 or $4 million guaranteed, and then shave that final year off of his contract, shave off the 2025 season, and allow him to hit free agency at the end of this year and seek that contract out from a team that might actually be willing to give it to him. Courtland Sutton's about to be on the wrong side of 30, so I can totally understand why he wants to get that contract. It's probably going to be the last big contract that he gets in his NFL career. I just don't think it would be wise for the Denver Broncos to be the team that gives it to him. Right now, Courtland Sutton's holdout is something that I anticipate to extend into rookie minicamp. By the time we get to rookie minicamp, that's when the Denver Broncos can start fining him for not showing up. Right now, all of the offseason workouts to this point for the Broncos and the NFL in general have been voluntary. Players don't have to show up if they don't want to, but you best believe if you're not there, that's going to be noted and taken into account when you are at the financial negotiation table. So I think that Courtland Sutton's only hurting himself by not being in Denver. He needs to at least be in town, even if he's not in the building. Right now, he's working out down in Florida. That is not good, man. Just be in Denver. Be in the building. You don't have to participate on the field. Just be here and develop that relationship. If you don't want to show up to the facility, then go out with Bo Nix for dinner or something on Friday night. Go out to Elway's, go out to Shanahan's, go wherever, and just build that brotherhood and that camaraderie and that chemistry. That is the thing that's frustrating me the most about Courtland Sutton not being present for Denver Broncos offseason workouts. And if he is not here for rookie minicamp, you best believe the Denver Broncos are going to find his ass. And it's just frustrating. I want Courtland here. He's an important part of what the Denver Broncos are trying to do in offense. He's an important part of their overall offensive philosophy, but he's not here. I get that he's got financial demands, and I feel like those demands should, to an extent, be met. Just be here and just hold in, dude. Don't hold out. God, that's frustrating as hell to me. It really, really is that Courtland Sutton is approaching this in the wrong light. I want him to be here. I really do. But this is just not the way to approach it. Number 4 is the third season a charm for Greg Dulcich. I made a video earlier today on Broncos Syndicate breaking down how Pro Football Focus ranked the Denver Broncos tight end room as the worst in the NFL. That is an assessment that I agree with. You have Adam Troutman as your de facto tight end 1. Even before Greg Dulcich got injured last year, Adam Troutman was listed as tight end 1 on the depth chart. Dulcich is somebody who was mostly utilized in a big slot role in the offseason and in training camp and in the preseason. Jesus, that's a loud motorcycle. Dulcich was mostly utilized in that big slot role rather than a true inline tight end. That was Troutman, and Troutman didn't really thrive in that role. He didn't even surpass 300 yards receiving last year. He was really bad as a blocker, and I thought that was supposed to be his calling card when he was traded from New Orleans to Denver. That was what Sean Payton was really gassing him up to be, is that true 3-down tight end, and he did not deliver whatsoever. Lucas Kroll is a guy who is intriguing. He's got a lot of tools that you can work with, but Kroll is still an undrafted free agent, and he still has to go out there and actually prove it on the field, which he hasn't really done to this point. Us as fans and analysts can project, and we can hope that Kroll will turn into a big impact player for the Denver Broncos in 2024 at the tight end position, but we can't exactly guarantee that that's going to happen or depend on it, quite frankly. The Broncos are going to have to depend on some of their more proven commodities, and I say proven with heavy quotation marks, such as Greg Dulcich, such as Adam Troutman, to step into that role. If Kroll develops into something, that's awesome, but that's more house money than something that you can depend on happening. That's just how I view it. I like Lucas Kroll, but I'm not going to project Lucas Kroll to be the next superstar tight end for the Denver Broncos by any stretch of the imagination. I, in fact, still feel like the Denver Broncos need to bring in some outside help at that position. For me, Logan Thomas makes the most sense. He's the veteran player that's still out there that could at least provide you quasi tight end 1 level play that's better than freaking Adam Troutman. So that is definitely a direction that I would go in if I were the Denver Broncos. I hope Greg Dulcich is able to stay healthy, and I hope he's able to Jesus, another loud motorcycle. I hope he's able to step into some sort of role for the Denver Broncos, be it an inline tight end role or be it a big slot receiver role. Either way, I'd be cool with it. I just want Greg Dulcich with his dynamic athleticism when he's healthy on the field. That's all I'm asking for. Number 5, what will the Denver Broncos defensive line look like? That is a unit that they significantly went out to improve this offseason. There's actually a really funny typo here. Chris Myers Franklin. Somehow we confused both Chris Abrams Drain and John Franklin Myers. That somehow made it through both Mike Kliss as well as his editor. That's actually really funny. But the Broncos bringing in guys such as John Franklin Myers. They brought in Malcolm Roach from the New Orleans Saints. DJ Jones is still here. He's somebody I anticipated being cut. And they also brought in Angelo Blackson from the Arizona Cardinals, somebody who has some experience with Vance Joseph. Elijah Garcia is somebody that we certainly cannot forget about. He played really, really well in the preseason last year. It was enough for him to earn a roster spot. And I was surprised that he didn't see more snaps on defense as the season went on, when the run defense was just being exposed for being so porous. So if Garcia can step up into that role in his third year in the NFL, that would be awesome. And we can't forget about Matt Henningsen either. The Broncos defensive line, on paper at least, figures to be significantly improved from 2023 to 2024. Hopefully run defense won't be the significant weakness that it was last season. I want to see more Matt Henningsen. He's got a chance. He's definitely got the right mentality to earn that playing time. I really think that he does. Number 6, who replaces Josie Jewell at the inside linebacker spot next to Alex Singleton? The guy who's going to get the first shot at it is Cody Barton, the free agent that the Denver Broncos signed from the Washington Commanders. Prior to that, he spent time with the Seattle Seahawks, 3 years as Bobby Wagner's backup. And then when Wagner left in 2022 to join the Los Angeles Rams, Barton stepped into that starting linebacking role, played well enough to get signed by Washington. And honestly, if you look at Washington Commanders fans on Twitter, they absolutely hate Cody Barton. They loathe him. They felt that he was one of the worst linebackers they had ever seen play. And if you ask any given Commanders fan about Cody Barton, they're just probably going to trash him. What is with these loud motorcycles? Good Lord, man. That is the third one. They're going right up and down a major street that my apartment's off of. That is insane. Oh, was that a stick shift? Yeah, man. Whatever it is, they're just racing. Oh man, that is frustrating. But anyway, I think that right now Cody Barton's the guy who's going to be given that first chance to win the job, but we cannot forget about Jonas Griffith. When Jonas Griffith was on the field for the Denver Broncos in 2021 and in the first part of 2022, the dude was playing his ass off. He was looking really, really good and like a player that could develop into a starting caliber linebacker. He went down in, I believe it was week 4 of last year or of 2022, whatever week the 49ers game was. That's when he went down. And that's when Alex Singleton stepped into that starting role for the Denver Broncos at linebacker. Now Griffith has a chance to take his spot back alongside Singleton. That would be really, really cool. And I hope he's got the chance to do that. In 2022, in that Niners game, he suffered a season-ending injury. And then in 2023, he suffered another season-ending injury, a torn ACL. It was during an 11-on-11 drill in training camp. He just kind of came up lame along the sideline, a fluky play that ended his season before even started, and he was playing some really, really good ball in training camp leading up to that injury. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Cody Barton is as bad as advertised from these Washington Commanders fans, then maybe Jonas Griffith will be able to step into that starting role. I'm rooting for him because I think Griffith could be a really, really special player if he is indeed healthy. Jonas Griffith is indeed a stud when healthy. John L. on his motorcycle. I mean, I am going to kind of give myself away a little bit, but I live pretty close to the Broncos facility. You never know, man. That could have very well been Johnny John. Don't forget about Drew Sanders also. Yeah, man, I think Drew Sanders is a very interesting cat because last year he really, really struggled to develop into the off-ball linebacker position. The Broncos tried him at edge, but now with their edge rush room being so crowded, Sanders could step into that role as well. I think that he's got a lot of growing that he needs to do in terms of play recognition, seeing and attacking the ball, and not just kind of free forming out there and just really kind of looking like a deer in headlights at times. That's something he's really going to have to improve on. And man, I hear him again. They are racing up and down the road. It is insane. But yeah, man, Drew Sanders, if he can improve on those things, then he's got a shot at this as well. I'm not going to count anybody out at this point. Who will be the opposite boundary cornerback alongside Pat Surtain? This is an interesting conversation. And Chris was talking about Chris Abrams-Draine, who I initially envisioned as a possible dime for the Denver Broncos. That might not be the case. The vision for Abrams-Draine, according to Mike Klis, is on the outside, not the slot as so many draft analysts and scouts considered. That's interesting. Abrams-Draine played on the outside in Missouri and played really, really well on the outside. I just thought he was a little undersized to play on the outside in the NFL, but clearly the Denver Broncos don't feel that way, and they feel that he could maybe step up as that second boundary corner. That would be awesome. I think that would be the best thing for the Denver Broncos to happen because Chris Abrams-Draine has the highest ceiling of all of the boundary corners that the Denver Broncos have, not named Pat Surtain. I think he's got a higher ceiling than Riley Moss. He certainly has a higher ceiling than Amari Mathis. And at this point, Levi Wallace is just here as a veteran stopgap. If Chris Abrams-Draine can beat out Levi Wallace for that cornerback 2 spot, then I could see him not letting it go for a very, very long time. I really, really could. I love Chris Abrams-Draine's game. He's physical. He plays well in both man and zone, and I think that he's going to thrive if given the opportunity to do so in the NFL. Jaquan McMillan, of course, is the Denver Broncos' solidified starting nickel, and I only anticipate him getting better as the time goes on, and he gets more and more accustomed to playing that role. He didn't play that role previously in college, so it was something he really had to adjust to. He played well, especially in the first half of last year, but kind of fizzled off a little bit and was getting beat more and more as the season went on. You think about the New England Patriots game where number 29 was kind of trailing behind the Patriots at certain points of the game. That is a little bit of a concern there. We got Michael Ronquillo in the house all the way from Tucson, Arizona. Good to see you, Michael. Hopefully you are doing well, my friend. So, yeah, man, right now, I really, really do hope that Abrams-Draine's the guy who can step up. Riley Moss is another guy I'm eyeballing, but I think that Draine has a little bit higher of a ceiling than Moss, so that's why I'm hoping that he goes into that role, and it's not just because Chris Abrams-Draine's one of my guys. Number 8, is Marvin Mims ready to step up as a number 2 receiver? If you look at the advanced route tree for Marvin Mims last year, he was only getting open on go routes. He wasn't getting open on really anything in the short to intermediate middle of the field. He wasn't getting open on slants. He wasn't getting open on digs. He wasn't getting open on curls. He wasn't getting open on outs. He would maybe occasionally get open on a post. That was his second best route run. And that's something you would expect from a speedster. Posts and goes, they kind of go hand in glove with each other. I'm hoping that Marvin Mims is able to improve his route running acumen in the short to intermediate area of the field. If he wants to be a true number 2 receiver or just even a starting slot in the NFL, that's going to have to get better. Troy Franklin is somebody who I do view as another one of those straight line vertical guys, but he has a little bit more of a route running acumen than a Marvin Mims. If Mims can't develop, I could see Troy Franklin maybe usurping him sooner rather than later. The Denver Broncos trading up to get Troy Franklin in the 4th round when he really should have gone probably in the 2nd round, if we're being completely honest here, is a signal that Marvin Mims' days as a Denver Broncos receiver could be in jeopardy if he doesn't get better in that acumen. I still think Marvin Mims has a very bright future in the NFL as a return specialist, and he could make big bucks by the Denver Broncos just in that area alone because of the new kickoff rules in the NFL. But Marvin Mims is going to have to get better as a receiver if he's going to step into that role. That is also why the Denver Broncos signed a guy like Josh Reynolds in the event that either a Mims or a Franklin does not develop right away. They have more of a veteran body who can step in and be kind of a Z if they want to put Tim Patrick inside in the slot, or they could put Tim Patrick outside and put Josh Reynolds in the slot, just dependent on how they want to mix it up on that particular play. Finally, we've got, will it be Riley Dixon or Trenton Gill at the punter position? Riley Dixon is somebody that I've kind of crapped on a lot ever since he joined the Denver Broncos for the second time. I thought Dixon was inconsistent in 2016, his first stint in Denver, and that inconsistency has only continued in his second stint in Denver. He outkicks his coverage, he shanks punts, he sometimes has too great of a hang time, which again is where you're basically not allowing, or your coverage guys get down there too soon, and it leads to illegal blocks in the backs, in the back. It leads to holds. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm some special teams expert, but to the naked eye, even Riley Dixon is struggling at the NFL level. That is why Trenton Gill comes in. He also had issues with outkicking his coverage in the NFL, especially last year with the Chicago Bears. He was a draft pick by the Bears, though, and if you're a punter that's getting drafted, that means that you have some sort of talent there in your leg that should, at least on paper, translate well in the mile-high altitude. Ben Kotlicka and Mike Westhoff, the Denver Broncos special teams brass, really is somebody that I trust to make a good decision here. If they feel like Trenton Gill is the right move for punter for the Denver Broncos, I endorse that move. It will save the Denver Broncos a pretty good amount of money. I think it's almost, it's $750,000. And that's something that you could use on maybe a practice squad offensive line, or a practice squad level offensive lineman who would be elevated to the 53-man roster, or you could maybe use it on some other special teams position, a gunner or whatever. There's a lot of options there that freeing up $750,000 you could do with the Denver Broncos right there. So I think that would be a smart move if Gill does indeed beat him out. It would be almost akin to in 2022 when Sam Martin didn't want to take a pay cut. The Broncos rolled with Corliss Waitman. Waitman did not perform well, but I think that Gill is a higher ceiling player than Corliss Waitman is. Yes, Maverick. Mike Westhoff is still here. He is going to stick it out for at least one more year. He's still listed on the coaches for the Denver Broncos, and I saw him in shots from rookie minicamp. So yeah, Mike Westhoff is still here. He's also the assistant head coach for the Denver Broncos as well. Jewell missed a lot of tackles, and that's partially why I feel like the Denver Broncos were okay with letting him go. All right, Broncos country, we are over the 30-minute mark, so we're going to go ahead and wrap this up here. What are your top storylines for the Broncos as we head into OTAs? What are you going to be monitoring outside of Bo Nix, of course? I think everybody's going to be keeping an eye on Bo Nix, but who else are you guys going to be monitoring as we head in to OTAs? Please let me know in the chat below. I want to say thank you to USMC, Hillbilly John, Alex, Shy, Kim. Let's see. We got Michael Ronquillo in the house. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Hillbilly John says a better defense. All right, guys, before we dip out of here, if you guys could just do me a big favor, leave a like on the stream as well as subscribe to the channel. I would really appreciate it. We are getting closer and closer to 3,500 subscribers, and with OTAs coming up, I anticipate that we can get there by the end of the month. So if you guys have yet to subscribe to the channel, I would really appreciate it. And if you are subscribed, please leave a like. It really does help us out. It tells YouTube to push us out. It helps us get seen by more and more members of Broncos country, just like you and me. All right, guys, and until next time, I'm your host, Gage Madrid, saying peace out.